Greetings everyone, it's Socket Man here. I thought I would take you on a little tour of my 1976 CB750F. I'm in the process of a quick recondition on it, which I started 7 years ago in 2003. It's now 2011. I'm almost got the 750 Honda back together. The 750F in 76 was a second year for the F. The first year was 75, and all they really did was some styling changes. They squared off the tank a little bit to make it a little more modern. They put this fastback piece of fiberglass on the back end of it here, that yellow piece. And that was kind of about it. They made their normal engineering updates that they would have been doing anyway, but that was all they really did for the F model. It's not a, as you can see, a restoration, concourse, or anywhere even close to original. The original color was the yellow that you can see on the fastback fiberglass. This is, I kind of have nicknamed this bike FrankenBike because it's a little bit of a mishmash of not necessarily everything, but it's certainly not all standard. And the engine I did not tear down internally. I've had the side covers off. It's got good compression. It was supposedly running, a couple of years before I bought it, which of course everyone says, but it didn't seem, runs free, and I did have some of the external parts off of it, and it looks in pretty good shape internally. I guess we'll see once she's up and running. So I'll take you on a little tour of what's been done. Other than not cracking open the engine itself, pretty much everything else has been off, touched, reconditioned, painted, brought up to scratch, seals replaced, etc. Front and back wheels completely disassembled, down, bearings, seals all changed. Discs have been turned down and cleaned up. The rear one must have had some pretty heavy duty grit, or either that or someone ran the pads right down to the metal. It had some pretty good grooves, but the front forks completely disassembled, rebuilt, stripped down the fork tubes. The old varnish was all shellac or whatever they used was all yellowed up, so that's all been removed, repainted, cleaned up. Forks tubes themselves were in pretty good shape. A couple small pits, but nothing that's going to cause any problems. Front fender, rear fender, which is not standard, tank, and that fastback, as well as the chain guard on the other side here, will all be cleaned up a little bit more. A few of the dings have to get pounded out of them, and then they're going to be painted up all flat black. So this is not going back to original color. The chrome is beyond making look real good, unless I completely have it re-chromed, which is not in the budget. So don't have a lot of money into this bike. I bought it for about $400 7 years ago. And that came with 2 new tires, which are for another bike, not for this one here. But so the price was right. Everything, I think by the time I'm done, I'll have probably about $1,700 into it total, including the price of the bike. So it's not bad for something that is pretty much a new bike, stem to stern, and will be good for running around the neighborhood and terrorizing the neighborhood on a sunny Sunday afternoon. And it's also going to be a bike, because it's not being restored right back to the top. It's not going to be a bike that someone's going to waste a lot of time trying to figure out how to steal it. So I'm trying to keep it from looking too good, but make sure it's mechanically perfect stem to stern. Seat was recovered. It's a little bit shorter than what should be. As you can see, nice gap there between the tank and the seat. Not sure what I'll do about that, or if I'm going to do anything. There were 6 different colors or coats of paint on this bike. The yellow that you see here is the original. And then there was black, blue, white, another black, and a red. So it's seen its fair share of changing colors. Like a chameleon, I guess. The rear assembly, the cush drive was good. Took all the sprockets off, and the guards all has been cleaned up and painted. Everything is good there. The rear fender, which is in there now, is not off of a K model. An F model. It's actually off a K model. This bike here would have had a plastic piece that came down, which is missing. I didn't have it, and was going to be a pain in the butt. There's actually a toolkit box that can go all up underneath that, in behind there where the fender is, so I'm not putting any of that back in. I just took a fender off of a K model and modified it slightly, and it slides in there pretty nice. So it will be painted flat black and will basically disappear. Won't stick out quite as much as it is now. What else? Brakes have all been completely rebuilt. Both master cylinders and calipers. I had to order a new piston for, I think the rear it was, from the US off of eBay. They don't make them out of Honda. I was able to get a front piston fine. A gentleman down in the US manufactures them in his machine shop, and they're bloody well perfect. So oil tank's been all cleaned out and repainted, reconditioned. The fuel tank itself was rough inside, not horrendous, but there was rust in the tank. I cleaned that out, washed her out with muriatic acid, and have coated it with a cream coating. Unfortunately, as I'm reading a little bit more and as time passed, finding out that cream might not have been the wisest decision. It was what I decided at that time, but 7 years ago ethanol wasn't quite as present in our fuels, and now it is, and it appears that ethanol might be causing some grief, so I will be careful on what fuels are actually going in there. Carbs completely rebuilt, tore down. The original airbox is long gone. The popular mod in the 70s was to rip the airbox off and put 4 can ends on there, which are on there now. They sound better, they breathe better. I am not sure if they re-jetted the carburetor or not, so I will see how the tuning process goes. And I might be, if someone didn't have the forethought to re-jet that based on the additional airflow, I might have to deal with that. The ignition is still the points in there. I've cleaned them all up and set them. I will do some more timing when the engine is running. I'm contemplating putting an electronic ignition in there from Boyer, but at this point I'm just going to get it running with what I've got, and we'll see from there. That's really one of the, I guess, the wear parts with the condensers and that can cause grief if they get wet, and or if they get burnt. You burn out a condenser and the points can be burnt, and there's various things. So once you get an electronic ignition in there, you set it once and forget about it. The exhaust is over here. It came with an aftermarket 4-into-1 header. The person that had it before me was actually an ex-Honda dealer. He got it from someone else. It was held on by 4 hose clamps, so I'm going to come up with a better clamping system than that. But it's primed, ready for a couple final coats of paint. Headlight is all painted up and redone. These brackets to hold the indicators in the headlight are not off of this bike. They're off of a K model. I had to manufacture in behind here is an extension bracket. When I used these brackets, it was too close to the instrument cluster and interfering, so I've got an extension in behind here that brings the headlight out a little bit. Can still be adjusted. I still have to rebuild the instruments. They're in original condition and a little rough. New key switch assembly, as well as in the lock for the seat. The key switch actually went up in smoke when I sent it to the place to get rebuilt. They had a fire inside and lost the key switch in the fire, so it's another one was acquired and put in there. The whole head, the steering head's all been disassembled, new bearings, grease, refitting and seals, everything's rebuilt there, so that's moving pretty smooth at this point. So that's about it. The outside, you can see I painted a little bit. The engine, some of the engine covers have been taken off and cleaned up and painted. They were in pretty rough shape. I'll show you the alternator cover was in pretty rough shape. Some serious road rash there, and it had been cracked and sealed up with, I'm thinking, is JB weld of some sort. So pretty rough life. I have a feeling that's probably the original one. Of course, when you drop the bike, the first thing to hit is the alternator if you're going down on the left side, followed by your hip, your shoulder, then the helmet. But the alternator cover takes a heck of a beating when she goes down. So that's it for the tour. I will update the website once I get it running to see how she goes. I'll see if I'll record the first firing up of it. It hasn't been run probably, I've had it 7 years, and it was, well, according to the dealer I bought it from, who's an ex-Honda dealer, he had a lot of stuff out in the backyard. He, suggested it was running maybe 3 or 4 years before that. So it's at least 10 years, I would guess, since it's been run. So hopefully we'll just fire it up and away she goes. Take care. Cheers.